Hey guys, so today I have swatches of two new collections from KBShimmer. We have the Multi-Chromes, which is 6 multi-chrome polishes, and all the Bright Moves, which is 6 different neon creams. So these actually released May 5th, so I will link the website down below where you guys can check these out, and now we'll get into the swatches. So the first polish is called All the Bright Moves, and this is a neon yellow cream. So here is one coat. This one is sheer on the first coat, so it is going to take a few to build up. And it is settling more to the sides of my nails, so I'm trying to do a little bit thinner coats than I did on the first couple of nails. So here is 2 coats. And this is still a bit sheer, not as patchy or streaky as I would have thought, but just sheer overall. And this does dry a bit dull as well. You could also layer this over white if you didn't want to have to do 3 coats. So here is 3 coats. So this one is still a bit patchy on that third coat. I don't think it's terrible, but it's definitely still there. It's going to depend on your preference. It's even hard to see on camera, but you might be better off layering this over white. And I said on the last coat, layer it over white if you don't want to do 3 coats. You'd still end up doing 3 coats. You just wouldn't be doing 3 coats of this polish. For me, it's a little bit easier to justify burning through a white polish on 2 of the 3 coats instead of burning through a neon yellow on all 3, but that's just me. So there is 3 coats of All the Bright Moves. The next polish is called Race Against Slime, and this is a neon green cream. So here is 1 coat. So this is a bit sheer and a little bit patchy on that first coat. The formula is good. It doesn't look like it's pooling around the sides of my nail at all like the yellow one did. So here is 2 coats. And this one looks like it's covering completely in 2, but I'm going to let it fully dry first before I call it. The first coat looked way more sheer after it was dry than it did when I was applying it. And this does dry a bit dull, so you will want top coat. So here is 3 coats. I still had a few patches once it fully dried that I wanted to cover up, so I'm going to do the third. It's not terrible. Depending on your application, you might be able to get away with 3. I definitely don't think this would need to go over white ever at all. You can see there, and on my pinky finger, I do have a couple little darker chunks of pigment in there. I did my swatch pictures already, and with I believe 3 coats on my swatch pictures and everything, I didn't see those at all. These are the first 2 that I've seen, so they're not a huge problem, but they are in there. So there is 3 coats of Race Against Slime. So the next polish is called Please Don't Glow Girl, and I had to make everything around the polish very dark so that the orange didn't burn your eyes. So this white here and my skin and everything is going to look a little more shadowed, but the polish is going to be true to color. So here is 1 coat, and this is a bit sheer on that first coat. Good formula on this one. It does feel like it wants to settle on the sides of my nail just a little bit, not as bad as the yellow, but a little bit. So here is 2 coats. And I can still see a bit of nail line there, so I'm going to add a third, but it does cover pretty evenly. It's a little bit sheer, but it's not patchy at all. And this one also dries dull, so you will want top coat. So here is 3 coats. And 3 coats does cover completely on this one. If you look super, super, super closely, you might still be able to see a bit of your nail line. That's all going to depend on how white your nail line actually is, but I don't think on my nails anyway that it's terrible. Definitely not enough for another coat or to even bother with a white base. So there is 3 coats of Please Don't Glow Girl. The next polish is another one that I'm going to keep the brightness down a little bit for. This is called Me Rad, and this is a neon pink cream. So here is 1 coat. A bit sheer on that first coat, but it covers pretty evenly. Good formula on this one. It's a little bit thin. It's not terribly thin. I'm just not entirely used to it, so I keep getting way too close to my cuticle. So here is 2 coats. This one is still a bit sheer on that second coat. It's not uneven. I can just see my nail line. And it does dry. This one looks like it dries fully matte, so you will want top coat. So here is 3 coats. And I can still see a bit of my nail line on 3 coats with this one, but just like the orange, I definitely don't think it's enough to worry about a 3rd coat, a 4th coat, or a white base. Very, very barely noticeable. That being said though, if you do have really white nail line, it might be an issue. So there is 3 coats of Me Rad. The next polish is called Let's Be Frank, and this is a bright, kind of a little bit reddy purple. So here is one coat. And this one is a bit sheer on that first coat, so it is going to take 2, maybe 3 to build up. Formula is just a tiny bit on the thin side, but overall it's pretty easy to apply. It doesn't flood or pool, doesn't want to run anywhere, and it applies pretty evenly. So here is 2 coats. And I believe 2 coats is going to cover completely on this one. I actually cannot remember how many coats I did for my swatch picture because it was a while ago. But I'm looking at this and I don't see any nail line at all. The color looks solid throughout. Maybe you'd want to do a 3rd coat. I'm wondering if there's just a little bit of color discrepancy between like this nail and this nail, just depending on the thickness of my coats. So if you're picky, you might want a 3rd coat for that, but coverage-wise, this covers completely in 2. So there is 2 coats of Let's Be Frank. And the next polish is called Double Pog Dare You, and this is a brighter neon blue. Neon, I say as in it's the blue that's always in neon collections. It's not necessarily like bright like a neon yellow or orange or pink is, but it does kind of have its own unique shade of blue. So here is one coat. And this actually has amazing coverage on the first coat. I just have a few bald spots that I want to cover up, but I'm really surprised and impressed with how well this covered on the first coat. The formula is great. It doesn't have that tiny little tinge of thinness that a lot of the other ones had, and I say that not saying that those were too thin by any means. They just were a little bit on the thin side for me. So here is 2 coats. And this one does cover completely in 2, and it actually dries pretty shiny as well. I don't think anyone could really find this to be a 1-coater straight out of the bottle, but it was really, really close. I think it's one of those polishes that after you've used it a couple times and it gets a little bit thicker, you could probably easily get 1 coat out of it. I am really struggling to speak this morning. So there is 2 coats of Double Pog Dare You. So the next 6 polishes are going to be the Multi-Chromes collection. I'm really terrible at describing multi-chromes, so I'm going to try to read these off of what I have from KBShimmer. So the first one is called It's a Blazing, and this is a red, bronze, golden yellow, and orange shifting multi-chrome. So here is 1 coat. So the first thing I noticed with these the first time that I swatched them is how well they cover. A lot of the first multi-chromes that came out were a bit more on the sheer side, and they did take a few coats to build up. Really, the first coat, you could almost just see kind of just like a smoky gray color. You really had a hard time picking out any of the color until you layered a couple more coats on top. But these cover really well, and the formula is fantastic. So here is 2 coats. And 2 coats does cover completely on this one. You do have some brush strokes when you first apply it, but those for the most part do go away as it dries. There are a couple left, so you want to be a little bit careful, but it's not terrible. It does dry a little bit dull as well, so you will want top coat to make it shiny. So there is 2 coats of It's a Blazing. So the next polish is called Iridescent Exposure, and this is described as a dusty teal to blue to purple to magenta red shifting multi-chrome. So here is 1 coat. So this one is considerably more sheer on the first coat, and it's pretty much what I described a lot of the multi-chromes that I'm used to looking like, where you almost just get like a little bit of a smoky gray color until you build it up a bit. And the formula on this one is fantastic as well. It must be different between these ones that are more bluey purple based and the ones that are more gold and red based as far as how opaque you can make them. I don't know, I've never worked with multi-chromes before. So here is 2 coats. So this one is starting to build up well. I can actually still see my nail line, but only from a certain angle. But I think I'm still going to do a 3rd coat to cover that up, because angles are the whole point of multi-chromes. So I wanted opaque from all of them. And this does dry a little bit dull, so you will want top coat. I also started this video before my coffee was finished, and now I'm continuing it as I drink it, and I feel like I'm getting more and more annoying as you guys hear me wake up. So here is 3 coats. So 3 coats does cover completely on this one for me. If you are not super picky about nail line, then you'll probably be fine with 2. It really was just at a certain angle that I could see my nail line. And I also just realized that that comment about coffee makes absolutely no sense to you guys because I just picked this video up this morning on the purple neon. I did the first 4 yesterday. Here is 3 coats of Iridescent Exposure. The next polish is called Flip Flop Hooray. This is described as a emerald green, shifting to teal, navy, and a warm grape purple with hints of magenta and red. So here is 1 coat. This one is also a bit sheer on that first coat. You can really see that green though, at least from the angle that I'm at. Yeah, you can see it in the viewfinder too. Great formula on this one as well. So here is 2 coats. So it's actually amazing to me how much more vibrant the green gets from 1 to 2 coats. I can still see my nail line a little bit from certain angles, just like the last one. So I'm going to do a 3rd coat, but I don't think everyone's going to need a 3rd coat. It's just going to depend on your preference. So here is 3 coats. So 3 coats does cover completely from all angles on this one, but like I said before, that's me being really picky, so you'll probably be okay with 2. And there are some brush strokes when this is wet. Some of them do go away when it dries, but I was surprised at how many were still there, so you do want to be a little bit careful with your application. As long as your brush strokes are straight though, they are really hard to pick out. They're like a really, really fine brush stroke. So there is 3 coats of Flip Flop Hooray. The next polish is called Puns and Roses, and this is described as a rosy pink shifting to warm yellow gold and green, and then a hint of deeper green at the edges. So here is 1 coat, and this one is also a bit sheer on that first coat. Great formula though. I will say all of these ones that have been a little bit more sheer have also been a little bit more thin than the first one. It's a Blazing. It was a little bit thicker than the rest of these, not too thick, and these are not too thin, but there is definitely a noticeable difference. So here is 2 coats, and I can still see my nail line here at certain angles, and like the other 2 that I've done this with, I'm going to do a 3rd coat, but it's all going to depend on your preference. I don't think it's going to be entirely necessary for everyone. This does dry a bit dull, so you will want top coat. All of them have dried dull so far, but I haven't mentioned it for all of them. So here is 3 coats. So 3 coats does cover completely on this one. It does leave some brush strokes when it's wet, but for the most part those do go away as it dries. And I feel like this is definitely the brightest so far out of all of them. So there is 3 coats of Puns and Roses. The next polish is called Chroma Chameleon, and this is a fuchsia pink that shifts to coppery rose and soft gold and spring green. So here is 1 coat. This one is also a bit sheer on that first coat. Great formula on this one. So here is 2 coats. And like the other sheer ones, I do have some nail line at certain angles, so I'm going to do a 3rd coat, but also like the other ones, that's going to depend on your preference. It's not really, really bad. And there are also some brush strokes in this. Those mostly do go away as it dries, but you want to be careful, at least on your last coat anyway, to make the lines as straight as possible. So here is 3 coats. And 3 coats does cover completely on this one. And this one also dries a little bit dull, so you will want top coat. So there is 3 coats of Chroma Chameleon. And the last polish is called a Wine Knot, and this is described as a warm burgundy that shifts to purple, gold, and bronze. So here is 1 coat. This one is still a bit sheer on the first coat. This is the second most opaque one out of the 6. Great formula on this one. A little bit thicker than the other ones. Not too thick, just thicker. So here is 2 coats. And this one, being a bit more opaque than most of the other ones in the collection, does cover completely in 2. And the majority of those brush strokes do go away as it dries. You still want to be careful though, because you might have a few left over, especially if they're like really crazy looking. So there is 2 coats of Wine Knot. So I'm in a bit of a blue mood today, so Double Pog Dare You is going to be my favorite out of this one. I like the blues that always come out in neon collections. I really, really like that kind of blue. I feel like it's almost like unique to neon pigments. Oh, and I have a lot of yellows and oranges and greens laying around, and I have a lot of these blues as well, but it's still my favorite. So those are the 2 new collections from KBShimmer. So I will link the website down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later.